Hello everybody, welcome and thank you for joining us today. My name is Jane Hewitt and I'm the Capability Building Coordinator at Connecting Up and TechSoup New Zealand. Connecting Up and TechSoup New Zealand are part of the Info Exchange Group, a not-for-profit social enterprise that tackles the biggest social challenges through the smart and creative use of technology. For those of you who haven't attended a webinar with us before, Connecting Up and TechSoup facilitate an annual training calendar of online webinars, workshops, boot camps and webcons to help the social sector upskill in all things digital. And you can check out our training and events calendars online on both of the websites. So welcome today to the webinar, Writing Words for Your Website, Getting People to Listen and Connect with Your Nonprofit, with Belle Temby and Martina Grossi. And before we begin, we'll just start with a bit of housekeeping today. All lines are muted, so if you have any technical issues, please type them into the questions box on your GoToWebinar panel and I'll be able to assist you. If you have any questions throughout the session, please also type them into the questions box and we'll have a Q&A session at the end with Belle and Martina. If you're on a Wi-Fi connection, so please close any other programs as they can sometimes interfere with the quality of the video and the audio. And please note that this webinar is being recorded and I'll be sending the slides and the recording along to everybody towards the end of today. And just before we start, we ask everybody to fill in the survey at the end of the session so we can improve future webinars. So that's all from me. I will now hand you over to Belle and Martina. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jane, and hello everybody and welcome to Writing Words for Your Website, getting people to listen and connect with your nonprofit. It's lovely to be here today, and before we get going, I just want to acknowledge the traditional owners on the lands on which we are meeting. I pay my respects to their elders past and present and the Aboriginal elders of any communities who may be here today. So, Writing Words for Your Website. Why are we here? Well, just to make sure that we're in the right room, we're here because we want to avoid the most common content creation traps. We want to discover the top 3 mistakes that are turning people in Google away from your website. And we want to learn about the tools and tips that Martina has for us on how to review and tweak content, how to avoid content creation pitfalls, and finally, we want to make an impact. We want to engage our audience, create a content plan, and increase your online visibility and readability. So I'm very excited today because I have a guest presenter here who I work with in the background at Digital Services Lab. Martina Grossi is the founder of The Global Curious and a copywriter for our organisation and other organisations. And I feel that she is such a fantastic resource. I had to get her here to talk to you today about writing words for your website, because Martina helps me write words for my website and helps me with article creation. So thank you, Martina, and hello.
Hello, everyone. I'm so honored to be here with you today. Thank you for joining us live, or if you're going to watch the recording later. So I'm a bit nervous, to be honest, but I'm so excited to share this with you, and I hope you get a lot of value from our session. And thank you, Belle, for such an amazing introduction, which it's very sweet. And yeah, let's have some fun.
Sounds very good, and that's okay. Everybody gets nervous from time to time. This is actually only the 3rd webinar that I've done with Connecting Up. So I'm actually used to really being in a room face-to-face with people, and I think COVID has definitely taught us to move things more online, but it's a platform that, you know, it wouldn't be my first choice. However, I am having a lot of fun doing these webinars, and I've got to meet quite a lot of organisations as well. So I'm sure that you'll get used to it in a second. So for those of you who don't know me in our audience, I'm Belle Temby. I live on what's known as the Sapphire Coast of Victoria in a tiny seaside town of Mallacoota. You may have heard of Mallacoota because of the recent bushfires that impacted so much of our country. And I just moved here with my husband, who is also my business partner, and my 2 beautiful dogs. I'm a serial volunteer. I have worked, lived and breathed nonprofits for the last 15 years, working on technology programs Among other things, I've worked on the executive of many committees and boards. So I know that I've done a series of 3, and some of you may have seen these slides already. Just in case you haven't, Digital Services Lab is my business. The culture of our business is that every action we take is an opportunity to be more ethical, sustainable, and socially just. It's our mission to do great work for the greater good. We like to work with our clients to inspire, engage, and connect with audiences. We run a range of services: web design and development, website care and security. We have search engine optimization services. We provide analytics dashboards for our clients, graphic design, email automation and template development, consulting, and bespoke software solutions such as learning management systems, event systems, and a range of solutions that essentially make your website a more effective website. So our clients are we work with government clients, non-profits, and for-purpose businesses across Australia and New Zealand. And Martina is from New Zealand. I forgot to mention that at the start. So there's our New Zealand partnership in action right there. And every so often, Digital Services Lab co-locates in the not-for-profit hub owned by our community, which is in North Melbourne. Throughout my work in nonprofits, I noted a lack of investment in digital solutions and a lack of motivation to take up digital tools. So I built Digital Services Lab to encourage not-for-profit organisations to take up those tools, to take the step into the digital world in the fear and the hope that they don't want to be left behind. So we wanted to bridge the gap that we saw in the sector, and that's why we're here today, bridging that gap. So the first question I have is through a poll to engage you all and take the temperature of the room. What is your status for reviewing or adding content to your website? Jane, would you mind bringing up the poll? Okay, and we'll go for another 15 seconds. So you're not doing anything with content, you want to update content, it's in review as we speak, you have a content plan for 2021, none of the above. And let's see what the results are. Okay, great. It's good to see all of you have said that you're doing something with content. I want to update my content, 53% of you, and it's in review as we speak, 42%. So that's fantastic. And you have a content plan for 2021? That wasn't so many. Yay. That's okay though. That's what we can work on today. So, oh, I just need to go back to there we go. Okay, so before we write words for our website today, there are just some things that we need to be aware of. One is you really need to know your audience. And Martina is going to talk to us a little bit about this in my interview with her soon. Know who they are, where they are, how old they are, and what they are going through. Your website, if you're going to put all this time and effort and energy into writing great content for your website needs to work. It needs to be well designed and provide a good experience for people when they get there. Writing words is one thing, but having that in good order is another. You also need to allocate resources. You will either need people and time within your organization and actually giving those people time to do the job of writing content, or you need a budget if you're going to outsource to a copywriter. You need to plan what you're going to do and set some goals around what you're hoping to achieve by writing your new content, and you need to track what you're doing and if it's successful. So understanding your baseline data is really, really important, and then tracking what you are doing from your baseline data to see if what you're doing is effective and working. Okay, let's keep going. So think about in your organization, who is the best person for the job? Are they within or outside of your organization? Who is your second set of eyes? So the people who write grants, who write reports, people who are already writing for your organization may be a great person to lead or be your second person, your second set of eyes to feed back to you. So have a think about who that person or people are within your organization that are already able to communicate ideas through the power of words. And of course, if you don't have those people internally, who you might seek external from your organization to help you on this journey. And another note, I think that we get a bit scared when we're taken out of our skill set. So this is just a message to everybody. Don't be afraid to be creative. It's okay when or often in a not-for-profit, we're pulled out of our roles to do something that isn't our first or best skill set that we see. But you can learn how to write, and you have plenty of time to edit and brain dump, and we're going to take you through some of those processes. So don't be afraid to be creative. Everybody can do it. And one more topic that I wanted to point out today were the key differences for website content. So we have main pages on a website, our home page, our about page, our contact and service page. These pages often contain more static content or more static information. That means that we're not changing it on a daily basis or adding to it on a daily basis, though we might review it regularly, maybe every 6 months, maybe every year, maybe for some organizations every 3 years. That's okay. But we still want these written with flair and updated as needed. These are the trusty pages that help people understand what you do and if you're a good fit for them. And then we have the blog. And the blog is everything. You can do everything with a blog. It's news, it's articles. You can have categories of information, and it's your opportunity to talk more broadly to your audiences. You can go deep into subject matter. You can have fun. You can be both formal and informal. You can talk to endless audience groups, and you have endless opportunities to develop content and endless opportunities to improve your rankings through search engine optimization. So just wanted to point that out, that there are 2 different writing styles really that you would adopt within your website. And now I think it's time to speak to our expert, Martina, and we want to hear a little bit about Martina's story. So this webinar is going to be based on an interview style, and then you're going to have the opportunity to ask questions at the end. So I'm going to stop sharing the screen now so that you can see Martina and I. There we go.
Hello.
Hi, Martina.
Hi, Bill. Hello, everyone.
Thank you again so much for joining us today. I'm so excited to hear all the great nuggets of gold that you have for people about writing. I've really enjoyed working with you over the last, this year. And I just wanted to ask you first, thank you, if you could tell us a little about yourself. So how did you become a writer?
So I'm from Argentina. I'm originally from Buenos Aires, but I've been based in New Zealand for 6 years now. So I started writing when I was a kid, actually. Since I learned to write, I started writing like short stories that I would share in the local newspaper. Then after writing for a couple of years as a kid, I stopped. And when I finished high school, I went to uni and studied cinema and got a cinema degree. And I studied script writing there, which is like, it's related to some of the things we'll talk about today, in the sense of a type of descriptive writing that helps create an image, right? So then I was like, okay, I'm not script writing anymore. So then I stopped. But after becoming an expat, and as I got into traveling more and more, I started having this like deep desire of sharing experiences and things I've learned on these years of travel and being an expat. So I started my blog, the Global Curious Travel Blog. And yeah, that's how it really took off. After a while, I was, okay, now I've got my blog, now I need to travel more. So I just create a flexible lifestyle, and I became a freelancer and a small business owner, writing content for clients, and yeah, just learning about the internet.
Fantastic. You did an amazing job, may I add. So tell us a little bit, that's great about your experience of becoming a writer, but you've also had many successes in being a writer. So can you tell us a little bit about your success as a writer?
Yes, of course. So one of the main things that I achieved this year, which makes me really happy, is that I started writing for the New Zealand Herald. That's the national newspaper here in New Zealand. So I'm a bit of like a combination of like travel writer and blog content writer. So having exposure through the amazing. And then I've also written for many other like big websites. These are websites that get over 500,000 views per month. So they're like very high authority websites. Yeah, like World Nomads, The Planet D, and then also working for clients. And yeah, just like happy clients. I think that beyond numbers, that's also like very important, just to provide a great service. And yeah, so then as I started learning about SEO, that we'll talk about this in the next few questions, I also became a certified copywriter and sort of like an SEO expert. I mean, the word expert seems like overused, but I realized I really enjoy this, the combination of SEO and copywriting. And it's proven to be amazing since I started applying these tools to my own blog. It just like grew exponentially from just a couple of 100 views per month and very like red sad numbers for me, to growing exponentially over like 10 times in a short span of time. So yeah, that's a little bit about my experience and yeah, what I've done in this last 2 and 3 years.
Beautiful, thank you. And what a successful career that is, already writing for the New Zealand Herald. How exciting, and working for organisations that get such big exposure globally must have a lot of reward in that.
Yes.
So I love that you've become a writer. I mean, you've studied writing, you've become a writer for the web, which is, you know, it's a different skill set. Writing is a skill of its own, but then writing for the web has some different intricacies. So how did you learn about search engine optimization?
I always have my evil laugh when I get this question, because I actually learned after doing everything wrong. So for about 6 months, I had my blog, and it was just a menu, and there was like nothing on it, and I didn't even know it was live, and it was actually live. So that didn't help my rankings for the longest time. So after lots of frustration and not understanding where I was standing and what my next step should be, I decided to start working with a mentor here in New Zealand. And Maria, she introduced me to keyword research, and she really introduced me to SEO and some of its main concepts. So the funny thing is that all this frustration that I felt during the first 2 years of my blogging journey actually became my passion, because as I started learning the power of combining SEO and copywriting. So I started getting more and more into it, and just getting more skilled, and just reaping the rewards, really. But in the end, long story short, my original website on WordPress was so bad that I had to migrate to another platform or face spending about $4,000 on coding. And it was like, no, I was like on a minimal budget. So that's how I got into this path of SEO and copy.
Beautiful, thank you. Yes, I think some of the lessons we learned really helped put us on a path that we didn't expect to go down. And so I think our audience will definitely be interested in knowing, so you've talked about your experiences, your mistakes, the successes that you've had, and the power of combining search engine optimization and copywriting, which is very important. So tell our audience, what are the 3 biggest mistakes that you see people make when it comes to writing words for a website specifically?
Yes, another great question, thank you. So one of the things that is content, it's websites with content that it's really hard to read. So sometimes when we're writing and we leave this content there, we don't go back to it to review it in a while, then we don't realize that maybe our sentences are like just so long, 40 words, 50 word sentences, and it's very hard to read. So when you have content that it's hard to read, the people that land on your website find it hard to engage, because they need to be sort of like trying to see where the words are, and if it's not easy to scan or again easy to read, then people might just like click the back arrow, and that's not good for us, for you as a nonprofit, and for you that you're working on this, on your amazing project. So that's not really cool, and it's something that it's actually so easy to find and fix in a way. So the quick tip that I wanted to share today with you is just read your content out loud. And if you find yourself needing to breathe as you read one single sentence, that means that that sentence is too long, or it's a bit of a mouthful, and you're like blah, 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 blah. So as much as possible, try to shorten your sentences and have easy to read content. And then
Beautiful.
Yeah, sorry. And then we also talk about when we speak and we are just so formal and we sound stiff, and this is also related to the readability. Usually when you're trying to sound very, very formal, you tend to use very so do your best to sound human. You're human. The people that's going to read your content is human. Most of them, we think, at least. So just sort of like try to write the way you speak, with clarity and yeah, in an easy and scannable way. So then like the doom mistake that I see a lot on different websites is that, because when we are writing, this is I talk from my point of view, but and I hope you can use this. Like, we tend to talk about ourselves way too much. What do I mean? Just again, read your content out loud and try to find how many times you say we or I, or how many times you're just simply talking about what you are doing. So we have this trick in copywriting. Just as a side note, copywriting is when you write words in a way that will compel a move to action. These are the words on your website. So we have this trick that's move the spotlight. So when you're talking about yourself, try to rephrase that in a way that you are talking about the problems you're solving and how and the results you're getting for your community. This is how people get the chance to connect at a different level with your project. So an example that Bella and I have been discussing is, for example, if you are a nonprofit building houses for people living in deprived areas in your community. So maybe you would say, what you would already have on your website before reviewing it would be, we built 100 houses. We are passionate about building houses for families, and that's okay, and that's that's okay. But when we say move the spotlight, it would translate to something like 100 families are now enjoying the joys of having their own homes where their kids can play in their backyard, and when they can grow in a healthy environment. So now, instead of talking about what you are doing, you're talking about how all these families are really getting the benefit of your mission. So there are pages on your website where it's absolutely fine, and you need to talk about yourself, and you need to sort of like show off your credentials to be trust and authority. But then there are other parts of your website where you want to really focus on your audience and the results that your nonprofit is getting for your community. So that would be number 2. And then here we go to number 3. This is a bit more of like a statistical tip, and it's like many times we don't know what a good conversion rate is. So what do I mean? Or even like how to read our statistics. So what do I mean? Like if I say, I've had clients say to me, oh, like 100 people came to this page on my website, but only 5 people contacted me, or only 5 people subscribed. And that's like 5 people out of 100. That's actually a 5% conversion rate, and that's actually quite high. So sometimes you think you're doing it wrong when you're actually doing it right, and you're getting already good results. So doing a bit of research, for example, I don't know, like email opening rates. If a client says I only have a 40% openings on my emails, that's like, oh my gosh, that's so amazing, that's so engaging, people's really interested in this. So try to research and understand a little bit of your reach and how many people's like getting in touch with you or subscribing, or even if you're calling for donations. So be aware of that. Sometimes you may be well like on the right path and you just haven't realized about it yet. And then now once you have a reference point, then you can also see what's actually working and what's not working. Yeah, so those would be my 3 main tips.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And they're such great tips. So make sure you sound like a human is where I got tip number 1. So the 3 biggest mistakes that people are making is that they don't sound human. So we want to try and sound like a human and ensure that we have readable sentences. You gave some great tips there for making sure that you don't gasp when you're in the middle of a sentence, otherwise it's way too long, especially for the internet on a website. The next mistake is that you talk only about yourself and not your audience, so not highlighting the individual or the audience that you're talking to. And the next is one, I mean, I absolutely agree with all of them, and it's just not being aware of conversion rates. So conversion rates are obviously it's almost like a dark hole, and I don't think a lot of people do look at their analytics. And I keep saying in each webinar I've run so far, you absolutely have to look at your analytics and understand your metrics, and even set some goals about what you think is a good number of people looking at your website and getting in contact with you. So thank you so much for that, Martina. Now, I think another thing people want to know is, why do some websites get ghosted by Google? And before you answer that question, can you explain what being ghosted by Google actually means?
Yes. So basically that means that your website is not ranking well, or it's not ranking what you would consider like high enough. And like you don't have a lot of traffic coming through Google or like search engines. Like Google's not the only one, but let's just talk about Google because it's the most important one for us. Yeah. So this is basically when you feel that none of the things you're doing are working. And so there are many different things that sort of can cause this. You have to think, for starters, that Google has 200 search like ranking parameters. So some of them are more relevant than others, but basically it's important to understand that it's a matter of time as well. If you've just launched your website, it will take time for it to rank. Sometimes it's even like 1 year until Google really gets eyes on your on really crawling and ranking your website. So in a way, I just want to say, like, relax. Yes, because it's like people do get very anxious over this, like, why am I not ranking, what am I doing wrong, and they just like start moving everything around, and it's not the time yet. So so one of the things that are related to this is like how old your domain name is. That's like your URL, your website. Like if if you domain name it's like 6 months old, Google may not even look at it. But if it's like 10 years old and you're still not getting like organic traffic from Google, then there's something to worry about. So another thing that may cause Google to ignore you is if you are not using keywords as a strategy. Keywords are like just like the 101 of SEO, and you could have like, you could get a university degree just talking about keywords, but like just make it simple. When people search something on Google, that's a query. So then the answers they get, it's like answers to these queries. So are you answering people's queries? That's the different way of phrasing. You really do need a keyword strategy to get your rankings going. Then it can also be more of a technical issue, like load speeding times, slow loading times, or heavy images. So there are many things that hopefully you will go through and kind of like start tweaking to see where the problem is actually.
Yeah, that's such great advice. And I think especially we get eager when we put all this effort into our websites and we change all the wording around. We're like, hang on, why am I on the, the 5th page down, or, I'm ranking 50th for a search query and I've done everything right. It's like, well, you actually have to build up your authority within these search engines. It doesn't happen overnight. So I think it is good to be patient and wait. But obviously, if you're not using keywords as a strategy, it's going to be very difficult to rank.
Yeah.
One thing I just wanted to add there is not-for-profits do have available for them there's a Google for Nonprofits program, and that allows them Google Ad grants, which means if you're eager to actually get up there in your search engine results page for particular terms and you want to get more visibility to your organization, it's well worth looking into Google Ad grants. And I know that Connecting Up are offering some webinars around this. I believe Rodney from PN Digital is doing some of those webinars. So I definitely recommend to the audience, if you are eager to rank, then apply for the Google Ad grants program. You can get up to $10,000 worth of advertising per year. And that might be an avenue that people would like to explore further. So that's just to get you up there a little bit quicker because then you're paying to be there.
Yes.
So thank you, Martina. Now, we have a lot of members in the audience today who will want to know where to start when it comes to reviewing. That was revealed in our poll, reviewing or auditing the content on the website. So what do you suggest is a good starting point?
So I think this is connected to what we were saying before about reading your content. And I think I would say people find it hard to connect with their audience. It's related to this of like just talking like a bit of a robot or being too formal or trying to sound professional, and you're missing out on the emotional bits that are the things that will really lead to connection. So I would like you to look at your website and your content and ask yourself, what's the job to be done? This is a framework that a really great copywriter uses. So this would be to explore what is the problem you're solving. So when we were talking about the non-profit building houses for the community, so you're solving a housing issue in deprived areas of your community. But at an emotional level, you're also bringing people joy and clarity on their future, and their kids will grow in a safe environment. So you can see that it's not you're building houses, you're really helping people achieve their dreams. And people connect with that. So try and make sure if you are sort of like touching that vibe with your words. So then ask yourself, who is your audience? So this would be like just following up on the same example. This could be socially aware people that want to help people within their communities have access to better living. This could also be families that could potentially be receiving these houses. So you wouldn't speak the same way to if you have a nonprofit that talks about sustainability, You wouldn't talk to the exact same people that if you're talking about a housing issue within your community, or you wouldn't talk about the same of if you have an organic farming non-profit. So I'm just saying this to bring examples of different niches, because this all boils down to understanding your niche, their worries and their issues. So different niches respond to different words and in a way. So what are you solving with your nonprofit? Who is your audience? And then again, to phrase it in a different way, what keeps them awake at night? What are they ashamed of? What's their vulnerability? If I were a parent that has no opportunity to access housing, then I might even feel ashamed of not being able to provide for my family. Maybe I haven't received the tools and the skills needed to help me grow to that stage. And so the conclusion of this specific thing would be that the words on your website talk to people can talk to people at a deep level. So we ask Google things that we don't ask anyone else. Sometimes you would type something and just like, tell me if you haven't done it ever, because I definitely have. Sometimes we have fears or worries and we ask Google. Yeah. I've literally seen questions on Google saying, when I do my keyword research, saying, how can I leave everything and start a new life? So maybe you wouldn't talk about this with anyone else, but you ask Google, and Google sort of like always has an answer. So when you're reviewing your website, try and see if you're touching on these pain points that your audience will have. Just try to understand them at a deeper level. So to round up, let's say that going through this, it's like it may take 2 minutes to say it, but it's like a process to sort of like get clarity on this. It's not that straightforward, and it can take years or like months at least. So once you have clarity on this, again, go back to your website and see how you're reflecting these values, that these pain points and all emotional triggers that we are talking. Yeah, and then finally, another thing that I will I think that will really benefit you from reviewing when you sit to review your content is give people something to do. What do I mean? So you've written all these amazing words and people's like pretty much crying to be your friends, and then they don't know how to get in touch with you. They don't know how to subscribe to your newsletter. They don't know if you have a blog they can donate. So just so make sure that you give people something to do once they read your content, and that's something to do. It's ideally will be something that it's intentional. Yeah, so make it very easy for people to get in touch and connect with you.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And I think you've really highlighted something there for people, that there are people that do confide in Google and seek answers from Google to show them websites and information about some of their deepest, darkest fears and secrets. And some of the organizations that are here today might support gambling or relationships, or people struggling with a range of issues. And it really is about going that extra level deeper to really understand how people are trying to solve their problems, and then ensuring that they marry the content on their website to the fears and the experiences of the people that they're trying to help. So I think that's incredibly good advice to really dig deep into the vulnerability people are experiencing, and then to actually research what people are typing into Google and how many people are doing that. So yeah, I think that's some fantastic advice. And then of course, this is one that I always give to people. your website it's like an instruction guide. It's a journey that you're taking people on. So you have to tell them what to do next. Like once you read a page, there has to be something that follows that particular page, whether it's a sign up, read more, you might want to see this option or that option of our service, but you can't just let the text end with nothing left to do, because you've basically walked away from a conversation and turned your back on them. So I think it's really important to think about it like that. And I just wanted to add, I suppose, when we're talking about audiences, and not to oversimplify it, we do understand that there are a lot of not-for-profits that are serving a hugely broad audience. So your homepage, and Martina alluded to this earlier, your homepage is not going to be the deepest, darkest secrets of every single member of your audience. It might end up being that that's a funnel into the section that talks to people about what they do. So you could have a very large service with a lot of different programs and activities for people to undertake. And it's just important that when you are reviewing your website, you're thinking, have I captured everybody that needs to be captured on the homepage? Have I funneled them off, and then am I talking to them? Whereas if you're a single service or you do one thing, then perhaps you do address those fears and vulnerabilities immediately. So it really is different depending on who you are and what you do. So let's say I've decided that I'm going to rewrite my website. What are the top 3 things I need to do before I put a word on the page?
Yes, so I will, it's not the same for everyone. So I will sort of like marinate with my own process for doing this. So for starters, do the audit, read out loud. I don't mean to be repetitive, but this is really important. And this is like the starting point. Yeah. And then so step number 1 would be do your audit. And then step number 2 is you can do like a brain dump of topic ideas, but then go to Google, and you can also try and learn about different keyword research tools. So again, a keyword, it's what people type on the Google search. So do a bit of research and find out what people is actually looking for that's related to your topic ideas. Sometimes, for example, when I'm writing for my website, I have this amazing idea about a hike I went to, and then when I'm looking for, when I'm trying to find if people's looking for it on Google, it's like 5 people's looking for it. So we put so much time into our websites that we also want to make it effective. So whenever possible, blend your topic ideas with what people is actually looking for on Google. And sometimes you would just like totally ditch your content list and really focus on people's queries. And that's what would lead your keyword research. And even if you just devote 2 hours, 1 hour to keyword research, I can assure you that you'll get loads and loads of content ideas, and you will even get surprised with what people's looking for on the internet. So bottom line, what I would say is stay flexible. And even if you have a topic idea, maybe you find then that people is actually looking for it, but from a different angle. So then be open to providing a different approach or a new idea on a topic that you usually talk about. And of course, always stay on topic within your niche, right? It's not just like talk about what people talk about what people's looking for, but it has to be related to like the bigger umbrella of topics that you will. So after the audit and after keyword research and finding topics, I just sit down and write the content structure. Sometimes I even take the questions from the internet to create my content structure from these specific questions. So my article will be answering each of them, and that's how I create my structure. It's very important to keep in mind to always have good hierarchy on like headings and subheadings. You can use dot points, make it scannable, just like you can do like bold, italics, whatever's like in line with the style of your website and your style of writing. But content structure, it's very, very important as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. So I think that they're great tips. Do your audit, make sure you find out what people are looking for on Google, and then ensure that you have some structure to your content and that you make it easy to read for the person that's visiting the website. So a good use of headings, dot points, just as you pointed out, that's fantastic. I thought I'd share really quickly my process for writing as well, because Martina helps us with our copywriting. We also do our own writing here. And I basically start with, I actually write on the paper, beginning, middle, end, and I often write the end first. So what is it I'm expecting? Like what message am I trying to convey? What action do I want someone to take? You know, what's the point of writing this content in the first place? So that's a good place to start. And then I start with it, just a brain dump. I'm like, okay, so what would be a good introduction? What would hook someone into this topic? And then what am I going to fill the middle out with? It's going to be useful information. I'm thinking about my audience. You know, I'm imagining that I'm talking to someone. I'm just getting it all out on paper. And then I leave it for a couple of days at least. And then I come back to the content and I start editing. So I start then thinking about, there's usually way too much in there, so I want to take some things out, or I haven't answered questions clearly, and it's so good to leave that day's time to come back and begin editing. Then I try and have a space where I say, okay, now I have to make it very clear and succinct, and can I take these 3 paragraphs and turn them into dot points so that they're really easy to read?
Yeah.
And can I use subheadings to break up the text that I have? So I think it's basically along the lines of everything that you said, except that my next step is, because I'm not a copywriter, is I need someone else to look over what I've done. And that's when, so I need my red pen friend, the person that's going to basically go over the spelling, the grammar, and assist me in that way. And then I need my other friend who's going to read the article from the perspective of the audience. So ideally, if you can have 2 people assist you in getting the article done, one is your red pen friend, and the other one is your friend that's going to be able to give that perspective. They have hopefully a lot of empathy, and they understand the article wasn't written for them, it was written for this person who's experiencing these, particular issues. And I think those 2 combined is a really good way to get some copy done if you have to do it internally without the use of a copywriter. So I just want to thank you so much, Martina, for giving all this advice today to our audience. And perhaps we've got some more people. I just want to go back to the slides now. We might have some more people that have questions for you, but I thought I would take a poll quickly, if you don't mind, Jane, if you could bring up that next poll. So have you done any keyword research for your organization? Yes, no. Is it in your future plan, or what is keyword research? And we'll just give another 5 seconds for people to answer that. Okay, yes, no, in my future. Oh, okay, all right. We actually have obviously some work to do. Thank you for that, Jane. We might need a whole webinar on keyword research, because it's really going to take a lot longer than we have available today. And I did include in my slides basically what is a keyword, why it's important, where can we do our research, and there's a free tool there that you can use, Google Ads. You do need to set up a Google Ads account as if you were going to advertise with them, and then it will take you to a free keyword research tool within the platform. You don't have to advertise with them, you just need to set it up as if you were. And then you have paid tools that start at around $15 to $17 a month, and one of them is KeySearch, which we've mentioned here. We've included how it works and that you should just use data. So these slides will actually be sent around for the audience to review, so you can have a look at that there. And then I've just included a slide from my last webinar actually about how you can improve your ranking in search engine results pages. One is keyword research. So For 13% of you that are using keyword research, that's fantastic, but I'm going to put a bit of a challenge to you to all undertake some keyword research. It is super important if you're going to spend time writing content for your website that you marry the words that you're writing, the topics that you're writing about, to how people are searching in Google. So that's my challenge to everyone. Do some keyword research and start with just coming up with a list of things that you think people might be typing into Google. The next thing I'm excited to give away. So this is a wrap up and a gift for the audience. If you would like to email me for a link to book in a free one-on-one half-hour content brainstorm session, or to review the words on one selected page of your website, I've only got this available for the first 20 organizations that contact me, but I'm happy to spend some time with you, absolutely free, and talk about brainstorming or reviewing a page on your website. So everyone who emails me will also get a content audit checklist to help you review the words on your website, and that contains 10 to 12 points that you need to check for every single page, and a lot of those points have been covered here with Martina today. So I'll leave that gift up. You can take the email address down and contact me if you wish, and we're going to hand over now to Jane to ask some questions to the audience.
Okay, so far we've just got a couple. What tools or sites do you use for keyword research?
Right, yeah, so I'll let Martina answer this one because she uses the same tool that I use.
Yes, so I use a tool that's called KeySearch. It's quite affordable. It's only, I think it's $12 per month for a basic subscription, but you get tons of like search terms. And that tool, I really love it because it's so easy to learn. And if you just want to have some information on search volume, like that's like how many people's looking for certain terms, it just will make your life so easy. I really recommend it. Then you have other tools. You have, as Belle said, like you have Google Ads. There's also a free tool that's called Ubersuggest, which is UBBER Suggest. That's like good for like just getting started, just get your feet wet with keyword research. And then of course you have a suite of like more expensive tools that are also very focused on SEO audits and like technical SEO. So if you like, I can see that many people is not really getting into keyword research yet. So I would suggest either start with the free tools or just get KeySearch. That's very affordable and it's so easy to learn.
Yeah, and KeySearch also comes with a really quick tutorial for people who aren't familiar with the whole world of keyword research and planning, which is basically like a crash course in search engine optimization. So even if you took it up for only a couple of months and then canceled the subscription, you could get, you know, a wealth of information, get your keyword planning done, and you don't need to stay with the tool for years. So it's perfectly fine to, you know, just invest a little bit if that's all your budget will allow, and start getting some of that research. Yeah, good one, Martina. And thank you. Yeah, that Ubersuggest is a great idea. So Jane, are there any other questions?
How do you find out exactly what people are looking for on Google? How do you do this research?
Yes. Do you want me to go over this, Bill? So yeah, so that's when we say keyword research. It's when we investigate what people's actually look like typing on the Google search field. And when you go, for example, to Google Ads, they will give you like some estimate numbers of how many people's looking for it. And then if you go to KeySearch, you would get the same, but you would get like more precise numbers, like, I don't know, 550 people. This is like searches per month. Another easy way to just get started is to just start typing something on Google and you will see like once you type 1 or 2 words, you will get like suggestions from Google. Those suggestions are there because people is actually looking for these terms. So just like if it's like just keyword research, or let's say to find what people is exactly looking for, you can easily get started there.
And
I
think I can add to that. Oh, sorry.
No, I hope that was the answer to that question. Sorry.
Yeah. Oh, I think it was definitely. And I think another way to get started that I encourage my clients to do is to actually write down all of the terms that you think people are actually putting into Google. So if you offer courses and your courses are in art or in candle making, or it's English lessons, whatever it might be, I would actually start writing all the things that I think, if I was sitting there on my couch and I wanted to learn English, what would I type into Google? So it might be simple like English lessons, or it could be more complex, like I want to learn English. And Google will also respond with answers based on your geographic location. So there's some of that in there too. But I think if you at least do your keyword research, telling that you only want to see results in Australia, because people could be searching, I want to learn English all over the world, but you want to know how many people are searching for that term in Australia, and you might want to even condense it further down to Queensland, Victoria, could be New Zealand. And so you start off with this whole brain dump of what you think people are searching for to find your business, to find certain services that you offer, and then you type them into the tool, and the tool verifies for you whether or not people are actually searching for that term, and it also suggests other terms that are similar to what you've typed in. So I think that's a starting point, is just a brain dump of what you think people are searching for.
Great. Is there an amount of content a website should have? What is too much and what is too little?
You go, Martina. Good question.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love that question. So it would depend on in a way, it would depend on the nature of the website and the nonprofit. For example, I have a friend, she's a photographer, like in a small town here in New Zealand, and I told her, you actually don't need to invest a lot on content. You just need the precise content, like top spots for photography in Tauranga, photographers in Tauranga, how to get great pictures in Tauranga. So it would be a matter of how narrow or how broad your audience is. As a rule of thumb, having a blog as part of your website really increases traffic. So some studies that websites that are posting content once a week do get about like 3x times of traffic. This is over time. But then if not all websites or not all like nonprofits could have the resources for that, but at the end of the day, having a blog will sort of like create doors on the internet to your website. And then you want to have content like this is not sort of like a hard and fast rule, but you want to have at least 300 words on each page on your website. So if you're just having, let's say you're not having a blog and you're just having what Bill mentioned at the beginning, that's like static content, which is like just about us, who we are, like our mission, get in touch and services or courses. So if you're not going to have a blog, then just make sure those pages are really good and really do answer all the questions people within your niche or audience would have. So that said, I've worked for websites that post 3 articles per day, and they have, and these are like getting lots of traffic. But then again, sometimes this traffic, it's not relevant. So then it will always depend on what you're doing and what's sort of like the driving force behind your nonprofit. Yeah. Again, I hope that answers. It's really a great question, and like they're like actually studies that are based just on these to try and figure out really what's Google thinking when they rank our websites.
Yeah, which is a rabbit hole all on its own. What are Google thinking, and how are they ranking websites? Yeah.
But
Very
sorry,
true.
just
Are there
add
any?
these. Sorry. No, I just say, like, don't stress too much. If you can have a blog, 100% get a blog, and even if you're posting content once a month, over time that would still build up.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Great. No more questions. Okay, thank you both very much. That was really interesting. And thank you everybody for joining us today. And as I said at the beginning, we will be sending out a recording and the slides to everybody later on in the day. So thanks both for joining us. And if everybody could just take a couple of minutes to fill in the survey, that would be much appreciated.
Thank you, Jane.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks for spending the last hour with us. Okay.
Thank you for joining us.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.